I will do an old-fashioned hot take here. The easiest path actually is for the seventh seed Notre Dame, and here's why.
Yeah.
So let's say Notre Dame destroys Indiana. Well, then their next step is going after Georgia, who does not have a starting quarterback. So then let's say you go and beat Georgia. Well, then after that, you have a pick between Penn State, James Franklin, and Penn State. They're the eighth grader that likes to say that they're the toughest people in the school because all they do is beat up sixth graders.
Right.
Notre Dame, I think, has the easiest path to get to at least the semifinals.
Well, we don't have to do
Are
that
we
all
see
right
Notre Dame
now.
in the college football championship again?
Hey there, football fans. Welcome back to Alumni Game, the show where three Gamecocks dive into Carolina football, the SEC, bowl season, recruiting, coaching, everything that goes with it. We're bringing you the action with doses of heartbreak, hilarity, wins, losses, and just enough insight to keep coming back for more. I'm your host, Mike Ritchie, class of 06. With me are my stalwart co-hosts for the 2025 season, Sam Niedermeyer, class of 06, and John Buster Clarkson, class of 02. Now, we had a bit of an extended holiday break. Obviously, for the holidays, got to be with family and friends. A little bit of influenza going around. That's understandable this time of year. But we are back and ready to get into things in this new year. On the menu for the show this evening, four-course special. We're definitely getting into this Citrus Bowl, right? Gamecock fans, I mean, we got to figure out what was going on there and how we missed that dub. We will get into the special teams of it, the coaching of it between those two coaches, how this loss hurts a little bit, and how we can learn from it and build our team even stronger. We will also recap college football playoff up until now and preview this final. I think that's why Buster's wearing green. And then we will also kind of recap the NFL Wildcard weekend. A little wild there. A lot of recent college players doing well last weekend. Preview a little bit of the divisional. We'll get into that next week. So don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on social media. We have that Instagram handle if you guys are checking that out. So you guys can get all our new episodes and content. And buckle up. And let's get started with a new episode of Alumni
Game.
Cox.
All right, Gamecock fans. So we got this Citrus Bowl. And for the first time in a long time, I'm kind of speechless. Yeah, where do we start, guys?
Well, you know where we need to start.
Unfortunately, yep.
Here it is, boys.
Yeah, I'm an avoider. Yes,
hey, we talked about this, that if we were wrong in our predictions and we were wrong, we had to do a warm gin shot. So, guys, warm gin shot on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
It's been kind of warming up here in cold New York for the last 30 minutes.
God, everywhere is so cold right now. Everything's frozen. Yeah, that's not the worst thing that could happen, but it's not nice. All right, so we got that out of the way. That's great. And then Buster, lead us off here. Where do we start with this thing?
So where did we go wrong? I mean, there's a lot of things we could talk about. We can get into Beamer's emotions. We can get into the way that LaNorris played. But the one thing I wanted to point out is we talked about this in that last episode that our players sitting. So we had Rocket and Kyle Kennard sitting out prior to the bowl game. Obviously, we found out during the bowl game that Nick and Memori left at halftime and was going to sit out the second half. I think that played a bigger part in what happened to us during that bowl game than maybe what I thought before. And this is why, with Nick and Memori gone, the talent that came in to replace them was not necessarily a huge drop-off, maybe a slight drop-off. I mean, this guy's potentially a first-round draft pick. So I knew there's a little bit of talent drop-off. But what I think was really missing was when you were lining up on defense, let's say you have a Mike linebacker that is the one that's getting the plays from the sideline in his helmet, and then he's calling the plays. But the Mike linebacker is the one that's directing the defensive line to do this and do that and line up here and look for this gap and look for this hole. The safety is just as much of an important part of that communication on defense. And I think we touched on this a couple episodes ago. I think Nick Memori's experience on that back end, being able to see the other 10 guys on his team plus the full 11 guys on offense, him not being able to communicate the tiny little things that are needed. So if we have a corner that is maybe 2 yards outside of the space that he needs to occupy in a zone defense, Nick was the guy that says, "Hey, you're on the right hash mark. You need to be 2 yards outside that right hash mark." And that tiny space is the difference between an incomplete and a completed pass. And we saw what the Illinois was doing. Remember, their starting wide receiver was gone. That second receiver, and pardon for blanking on his name, but he got a ton of targets. And that was it just him? Yeah, he's got talent, but was it also maybe the fact that we were just slightly off adjustments, and that's because of Nick and Memori being gone?
Yeah,
I'm
on
feeling offense.
This. I'm feeling this, Buster. A couple of points in there are pretty good in that you coached to one thing, right? We knew the players that were going to be out, right? So you can coach that, and you can coach those guys, and you can be prepared for that. But with Nick, you didn't know that necessarily. I don't know that the whole team. I mean, we might not know, and we might not ever know that. But if that wasn't something that was supposed to happen or was planned to happen, then yeah, it's a mid-game adjustment that has to be made. And if Nick is kind of out there just aligning just a little bit, almost when you're like teaching a kid to ride a bike, like, no, you're good, but just get your feet a little in or get your hands a little closer or something. You're good where you are, but just tee up on that guy a little bit more, straighten up a little bit, kid, and that veteran leadership out there. And yes, having that green dot on defense is a big deal, especially in college, right? Where not everybody is the most polished version of the player that they might be or become. Yeah, I mean, for me, the things that were patently evident, I couldn't marry up what was happening in the game to what I knew for the Gamecocks and what these friggin' announcers were talking about, right? I mean, they kept saying like, well, if you're going to substitute, then Illinois is going to substitute. So South Carolina just stop substituting. And I'm like, okay, but that doesn't seem right. Like, we talked about this a little bit, Sam, right? Like you had some opinion on that as well.
Yeah,
just kind of what was going on there and what they were talking about on the broadcast.
Buster's onto something there, right? You do miss a little bit of the leadership. I think with Nick sitting out the second half there, and obviously talent wise, you still had Jalen Kilgore getting picked, right? Zachary Franklin, I believe, is the guy you're thinking of.
Yes,
Buster.
Yeah,
Zachary Franklin
cleaning that up.
He was the one that caught that touch. Where it hurt defensively, and maybe this hurt us offensively as well. And I'll get into the point where we're talking about the substitutions, right? And I know we're going to talk about Bret Bielema and kind of his chess playing there. It's the leadership. It's almost like a physicality leadership. Even Maury is kind of a bigger dude. He's kind of a bigger safety. Illinois outrushed us 183. What was it? 183 to like 130, something like that.
Yeah.
Eamon Maury, so on the offense or defense side of the ball, the pass defense, to your point, Buster, they didn't really miss a beat. I think they were okay. Where it hurt was like on the line of scrimmage a little bit, and in that running game, you get like a big safety where Eamon Maury can really be a guy like almost like another linebacker out there in the run game because he's kind of leading the team. I think he's second or third in tackles this year on the team. So he's almost like a really smart physical linebacker playing safety who could take a pick six back like twice against LSU, but we won't talk about that. So you do
good
miss
callback.
I do agree he is a first round talent. Offensively too, Rocket Sanders, him being out, and maybe this is some of the substitutions where you're substituting Attaway and Howell back in and out, and rather than having Rocket Sanders being a premier guy where you just kind of lean on him, maybe he doesn't get 4 or 5 yards, but he's a workhorse. He can get you 20 carries where you don't need to sub him in and out, right? You can keep the same packages. You can keep LaNorris Sellers with the read option there. I'm not saying Howell or Attaway did bad. I think they were serviceable, but certainly that physicality leadership, in my opinion, really, really hurt us, especially defensively on that last drive where Illinois ran out the clock.
Yeah. Well, you make a great point with the physicality part because, and I look at this from my experience, playing football growing up, and then even watching it now, even being at the games at Williams-Brice. When you see a guy make a physical play, whether it was Rockets touchdown run against Missouri to close out the game and get the dub, or in any kind of situation, if there is a physical play where you show a level of dominance on the field from an individual player, that the psychology behind that in a game, in the game of football, is that when you see that, whether you're on the sideline or if you're on the field as a teammate, there's a level of hype that you get where you just get fired up. The adrenaline courses through your veins. Even now speaking about it, I'm getting goosebumps. I'm getting that feeling in the back of my neck.
I'm feeling it.
Ready to run
like that massive hit that comes out of nowhere where your guy is just standing up and the other guy just went straight down.
And that's the thing is
that stiff arm that is more than a stiff arm where you put him down to the ground and your feet don't stop going. That whole stadium gets going.
Sam, you were completely right. Like, I enjoyed watching Oscar Adaway, Jordan Howell run the ball. I'm very excited about Jordan Howell in the future. He is a good-looking running back. But when you have been running with Rocket all season long, that he's been that 1-2 punch offensively with LaNorris, and you don't have that in the bowl game, it's not that you're coming out flat, but maybe that intensity, that adrenaline pumping intensity where you just want to go knock someone's head off is slightly less. And that has a chain effect through the rest of the team and the rest of the rhythm, the rest of the tempo, the rest of the intensity of the game. And I think those little things, while they are not the sole purpose we lost the game,
it doesn't win.
There's a level effect that carried into why we didn't look like the team that beat Clemson a couple weeks prior.
Yeah. Well, you lost that physical identity. I mean, I hate using the term identity, right? Because you got to win. You win how you want to win, but you lose a little bit of that physical identity with those two guys being out. And Kennard obviously is he's SEC Defense Player of the Year. Like, he's a stud. Don't get me wrong, but his bread and butter is pass rushing, right? And he can plug on the defensive line as well in terms when it comes to stopping the run, but when you get past those defensive linemen, and I think our defensive line is great, and TJ had a good game as well. Like, I think our defensive linemen are great, but you got those secondary players like Eamon Warrior on the back end that can really pop you. That's where you get that, like you said, Mike, like that. You get a big old running back and the safety comes in. The running back wants to break open to those safeties. When you got a big body like Eamon Warrior there, kind of knocking you down, your big run's no longer 25 yards; it's 7 yards.
Yeah,
and then it has to adjust.
You guys call it up north. You guys call it moxie, right? When you get that little bit of, so here, like in the South, I grew up with my dad calling it fire in your britches, or like a little hair on your nuts. So maybe we're missing a little hair on our nuts. The fire in our britches wasn't as hot. You guys call it moxie. It's something there that we didn't see, that we saw at Clemson and Missouri. All the other.
Yeah, it was flat. It was. I mean, I'd go the other way, right? We're talking about some plays and the physicality that gets you up, that gets everybody excited, that gets momentum. That goes the other way too, and that can happen from a coaching standpoint. And for me, the harping on the substitutions and the way it was delaying the game, and that's a coaching thing. That is sapping the energy from the game. LaNorris can't get going because he doesn't know when he can snap the ball, and they have to. Some of these things feed each other, right? And I didn't know this, and I'm learning some of this from you guys, which is really kind of fun for me because I had a certain opinion about this game coming into us making this show, and I'm learning some things that I did not realize. That is a really good nugget there about without Rocket. You have to substitute between these running backs because they're not as experienced. They don't bring that physicality. They haven't played all these other games in the SEC. Obviously there's not an SEC game, but as a bowl game, it's ratcheted up. And I feel like that would have been exactly what I said to that announcer when I heard it. Like, hey, you dumb SOB, like we have to substitute because our main running back is out. And that makes total sense to me.
It's not an SEC game, but Bielema has coached in the SEC and he wants to be a physical team. So the identity, the DNA is very, very much there for Illinois to I don't want to say like win the SEC, but they could potentially compete, win seven.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're saying, Sam, you're basically saying like he probably could go coach in the SEC, and
he did. He coached at Arkansas.
Same level.
Yeah, he was at Arkansas for 4 or 5 years. Didn't end up well, but it's also, does Arkansas get like great recruits? I don't know.
Arkansas did have a couple of good running backs back in the day, Felix and Darren, but Yeah.
DMC,
So
man, run
I
DMC
think
there.
he understands the need for physicality, especially in the run game, because of at Arkansas, you're not going to have the talents you're going to see at your Alabamas and your Georgias and even Floridas and Tennessees.
Texas,
Arkansas, they came in the SEC at the same time as South Carolina back in '92. They rely on finding guys that are tough as nails, strong as a country ox, and play a physical brand of football. And I think he took that to Illinois, which is why the Fighting Illini were 9-3 this year when they have been mainly middle to bottom part of the
Well, I mean, two things to add. I mean, I would say, you got Illinois needs that, right? I mean, they're going up against the Ohio State and the Michigans of the world. They got to bring something to give some kind of edge to make people believe. And if that's physicality, that would do it. That's what some other teams, like in Indiana or whatever, did this year to be able to do that. But a quick little note. A good friend of mine, Ray Lisi, a big Arkansas fan from Arkansas, lives in Arkansas, is a fan of the show, so thank you for that. And then when we get into Arkansas at some point for an Arkansas episode, I'm sure we'll end up
having him on.
So quick shout out there. So one other thing I want to move over to and get you guys' opinion, because we haven't touched on this yet, so this is like unknown territory to me. But what is the thinking for this trick play that we run on special teams? And is it a good call? Did it exploit something? Was it wildly risky? Is what I thought. I mean, what were your opinions there, guys? What were you thinking when that play went down?
So Beamer ball and Beamer, obviously, Frank Beamer, Virginia Tech, Beamer ball special teams. The idea, and Sam and I talked about this the other day, was that special teams does have a place in winning football games. Your offense is the primary reason that you score touchdowns. Your defense is the primary reason to get your offense the ball again so you can score more touchdowns. But special teams is the wild card that can flip the script, change the momentum, potentially score a touchdown or two. But it is just as important. And I think what Beamer wanted to do there and what he's done in the past and his kind of mindset and scheme of special teams is if we're given a specific look that the other team has when they're lining up either for a kickoff or a punt, extra point, whatever the case may be. If they're giving a specific look that shows that they have a defined weakness and vulnerability, Beamer's willing to call a play to exploit that weakness, and then that can either flip the script of momentum, give us, give our sideline and our players, a little extra motivation, or it can actually lead to a touchdown, which those things have happened.
Yeah.
So I think he saw something from Illinois that said, hey, we could potentially exploit this weakness, get this thing turned around, get the momentum back on our sideline, get our players fired up, and dial up a play that can get us, a touchdown. I would say
that's that
would be, hey, if you're looking at strictly from that, good call. However, in that point of the game, when you saw where we were struggling on offense, where our defense started to get exploited by the Illinois offense, was it absolutely necessary to throw the ball
in your own end zone? I mean, there are so many things that could happen then. If that ball is not caught and it flies out and they say it was a backward pass, that's instantly a safety maybe, right?
It's a safety. No, because if it's thrown backwards, then it would have been. It was
spot foul.
Yeah. So
if it is caught or bobbled, he could get hit and then fumble, and then it's a touchdown. And almost your best case scenario is that he just catches it, gets out of the end zone, and then you're on the 10. I mean, it ended up better. And I will give the announcers credit in the broadcast. They did see the positive in that play, and that we were getting it to a guy that could blaze all the way down the field. Yes, 100%.
Getting it to Nick Harbor, and then the amount of yardage
throwing a pass in your own end zone though is really nuts. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. A defense pins you on the one, and your quarterback's running around back there trying to get rid of it. Almost, I mean, if he has to duck out the back or step on the back line and give them two, that's almost better than a lot of other things that can happen. I just felt like it was so risky with the reward being so slight that he actually breaks the whole thing. I didn't love it. And that seemed to me like Beamer's emotion getting into him. Like, I want to do this,
Well, you think about this, like, we did get good yardage out of it.
We did. Yeah,
And
it was fine.
it was fun. But I would also say if you were willing to get a better offensive drive starting at the 20 versus where we started, I think it was like at the 40 or
Yeah.
45. I can't even remember. It was a
Yeah,
tough
no, I
Christmas
think on the
break.
trick play, he ends up getting to like the 20 or the 22
Yeah.
or something
So
like
like that's the thing is like would you be willing to not have that but have a better offensive drive that is more efficient and gives you a better outcome than that like kind of hyping you up but not really producing after that. So, did that trick play cost us the game? No. But was it absolutely necessary to potentially have a game winner? I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah. And
So
I don't think it did much from a momentum standpoint. Like, okay, you're
yeah.
just on the 20, not that big.
Sam, what do you think? What do you think? Like,
Yeah.
good,
Yeah, I'm
bad,
interested in
necessary?
I didn't hate the call, to be honest. I was okay with it because I think, I mean, everything you said is correct. And Shane Beamer, he's been special teams his entire, he grew up at Virginia Tech watching special teams just dominate. I was okay with it. I guess it's just kind of more of a microcosm of our season on special teams, right? Like we have sometimes kicking's been a little bit kind of rough this
Yeah.
year, specifically place kicking. Punting hasn't been terrible. Punt coverage has been okay, has been pretty good actually. I don't think we've given up one long punt return all season. But some things like, on our own, what was it, 15 or 17-yard line against Ole Miss, right? Very first drive, or maybe it was the second drive, and everyone in the stadium knew it was a fake punt coming. At least at this point, I didn't know it was going to be a fake, right? So I was okay with that. I think the execution was okay in general. I didn't hate the call. I really didn't hate the call. It's your last game of the season, right? Like you gotta,
Yeah, when are you going to use the play? You're not even going to have.
It's like when Dan Patrick was calling the water boy in the national championship and talking about like last game of the season, last game, you got to pull out the stop. All right, we got it, right? Like, but it's
okay, Henry Winkler.
Yeah. It's very cliche to say that, but it is last game of the season, so you might as well kind of throw it all out because you're not going to be able to run that play again. I was okay with that.
I can feel that.
You got to try to win the game, and that's what he wanted to do. And I think he felt that there was an opportunity to do that, to at least flip the momentum right there.
I mean, but my thing is like of all the things that negatively affected the outcome of the game, that is the least of my worries.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I feel that. And the other thing that's sort of the least of my worries is like they kept harping on the taunting thing, from Bret, and like I get it, but I don't need that flag. Okay, they missed that flag. They didn't throw that flag. They probably should have. He's going like this, and he can't do that, and he shouldn't be doing that, and he was taunting. But I don't absolutely need that flag to win the game. Like I'm not hoping on that. I would hope that they could call that stuff, but I think moreover, I would just hope that coaches don't do it.
I gotta eat some crow on Bret Bielema, man. Like I've been talking shit about him for several years now, and now he couldn't win the Arkansas, and then he beats us in the Citrus Bowl.
And he comes in and pawns you.
I gotta be honest. I think would you want to see a coach? You don't want to see a coach taunt when one of his players.
But I'm sure his players loved it.
When one of his players was on the ground. Was he injured? I don't know. Maybe that had some gamesmanship to it, right? Like you start seeing some Illinois players kind of fall down when we finally started getting efficient drives together.
And that's exactly what Beamer's position was, and that's why he comes up and hits him on the butt, like, get up there, kid. But I don't know that Beamer should have done that either.
I get that, but you know what? Like, I saw kind of two different things from two different coaches, right? And I know, Buster, you got a comment on this as well in terms of how the coaching went, and it's particularly on the offensive side, right? And kind of getting used there. But, I love Shane Beamer. I love how emotional he is. I love that his players love him. I love that he gets into it. I love that he always talks about thanking the students and thanking the crowd after every home game and after every home win. And he goes and watches the women's basketball teams and the men's basketball teams, and he sends bands up to New York for a Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade. Like, and he works with Don Staley a lot. I love all of that stuff. Like, he's definitely a passionate coach. His emotions got the better of him in this game, and it got the better of him almost immediately in the first quarter with the substitutions. Now, you got to take the good with the bad. Obviously, if I'm not I don't make the big bucks as a head coach, right? So, like, obviously,
Yeah.
I've probably got to send some more resumes and get some more experience out on that. But you got to take the good with the bad, and unfortunately, some of this emotional stuff got to him a little bit, and Brett capitalized on it. He kind of, he really outmaneuvered Shane this game and outcoached him from maybe not necessarily an X's and O standpoint, right? But certainly from like the intangibles. And this was one of them, right? The gamesmanship and the substitutions.
Yeah.
Do I like it? Do I think it was like quote unquote fair? I mean, it's within the rules. Is it? I mean, it's not exactly how I would play it, but it's what won the game.
Feel
it
clean.
is. He took South Carolina out of every single rhythm that was going on, and he did it. So kudos to Bret Bielema. I think he coached a terrific game in the intangibles.
Yeah, I mean, we had whole episodes where we were talking about LaNorris and what he could do, and a lot of those things did not happen here, and it didn't feel like he was bad. It didn't feel like he all of a sudden, didn't have any of his talents, but it just felt like the rhythm is not there. The plays are not being called in a way, and these substitutions and these delays and all this time. When can I hike the ball? When can I hike the ball? It's just it's a thing. And I hope not too much comes out of our game specifically, but I do think it could be a bit of a model of like, okay, if you see this activity, they got to be on this. And I would hate to see other coaches see what Brett did and say, oh, I'm going to do that too. You not that might happen, but you just hate to see some of this get out of control. If we start hearing substitutions in other games and taunting about other stuff, like I would hate to see that be a thing we see more of, or that other teams do to get in our head.
No, I think this is a one-off, unique situation. Like you said, Sam, like Bielema deserves a ton of credit for how he coached that game. We talked about it in our production meeting about the chess moves needed for the game of football. A lot of the chess moves that you do are on the field, calling plays to try to exploit the weaknesses of the opposing team. He used chess moves off the field. Like this is a degree, but it's not in psychology. If it was, then I would be Bret Bielema, because I think he used it very well to not necessarily manipulate or exploit weaknesses, but more so that he figured out that talent wise, if we're level talent wise with Illinois, and I think we actually have more talent, then he's going to win by kind of playing the mind games. Whether it's the substitutions, the injuries, that was all part of his plan. And kudos to that. Is it good or bad for the sport? I think it's not great for the sport. It's not necessarily illegal, although I think that the NCAA may try to curb some of the fake injury stuff. I don't know if they'll ever do anything about substitutions, because
that happens in other sports too.
So
to me, it feels more like a way of playing hockey, right? In hockey, when you're away, the other team gets all your lines and you can react faster and you can switch out lines, and that's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, and the end of it all is that those things happen, and then I think maybe the biggest, or not biggest, but maybe a glaring issue that I noticed was LaNorris did not look like the LaNorris that we saw with Missouri, Clemson, A&M, Oklahoma. Like there were games during the season where the offense was LaNorris. He could take control. He knew that he didn't have the best offensive line. He knew that he had a couple of injuries at wide receiver. He made plays based on his moxie, firing the britches, his ability to just go out there and play backyard football. Yeah. I did not see that in this bowl game, and their potential. And again, I don't know. I wasn't in the locker room. I'm not part of the program in any way. But I think that one of them would be, we did start with Mike Shula as our OC. He's going to be our new OC, and it's not that he's a bad OC or this is an indictment on his abilities as OC, but he's using the Dowell Loggins playbook. He only has 2 weeks to prep. You can't change anything, so you kind of have to just go with what's there.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And then two, because of this change and because of how they're, because of the way they have to prep offensively, was LaNorris trying too hard to make the plays happen as they are designed, rather than the way he's been able to kind of riff off of something that he sees. You look at that Clemson game, that 3rd and 16 that got us the winning touchdown. That was probably supposed to be a pass, and he was probably waiting for some guy to get open and look down the field towards the end zone, or at least to the first down. No, he was like, you know what? I got the skill, I got the speed, I got the strength, I got the
The
vision.
motor.
I'm gonna take this in myself, and he made that play himself. We
That
didn't see
Josh
that.
Allen mentality. Yeah.
That we did not see that in that game at the level that we have seen it in a regular season. So that doesn't change the fact that LaNorris is still the truth. That doesn't change the fact that I think Mike Shula is going to be a great OC. And once he gets his offense installed and we get the guys that we're supposed to get in this next year, I think we're going to have a better offense. But again, one bad game does not define a season, my boys.
No.
It's a hell of a year.
And I think, I mean,
Hell of a
unless
year.
we need more words here, I think that's a good take on the Citrus Bowl. I think I'm ready to put that one away, and then that would bring us to the end of the season, right?
Yeah.
Still 9 wins. Still, I mean, even just from the scoreboard, I know things happened in that Citrus Bowl, but we did not get blown out. It was a borderline less than 1 score game, and we're insanely proud of this season, and it doesn't tarnish anything. I mean, it just so happens to be the last game that you play for the season, and obviously that leaves a taste in your mouth. We've been trying to wash that out with warm gin. I think that works. But any other?
I mean, we were essentially. I mean, you want a chance at the end of the year. Like, listen, the experts, quote unquote, right? They had us projected at what, 4 wins, 5 wins, right?
Yeah.
Now we basically were 1 missed throw at the end of the game in the end zone to our stud tight end. Even with all the stuff going on, all the noise that was going on in that game, you could tell we were still 1. It was a little underthrown, right? So 1 kind of really pass that didn't connect to our stud tight end to win that game is what it comes down to. Like,
even with
all of
everything
that
else
stuff
we
going
talked
on.
about. Yeah.
So it was a heck of a season. I'm just proud of this season, man. I'm so excited to see what we're going to do next year, and especially all these guys we got coming in, all the recruits, all the transfer portals, the way the program is, all the hype we see online, and the stadium's being sold out. It's going to be an exciting 2025. I'm happy, Mike. You made a statement at the beginning of the show saying that I'm back on the 2025 roster. I appreciate you bringing me back onto the roster here. I'm excited to see what I can do. With
there
this
was some questions, just the athleticism, the overall, are you committed to the program, but no, all right, guys. So that's gonna wrap up the Citrus Bowl for us. That's gonna tie up the season in a nice bow. That one's in the books. That one's history, and has us moving on. And we're gonna talk now a little bit. We're gonna sashay over to the college football playoff that's been going on. We've had a lot of fun watching that. A lot of opinions on that. But Buster, you especially had some good opinions there, and I see you wearing this color today. I'm going to give you the mic here, talking about the college football playoff.
Mikey boy, let me tell you this, Sammy, your boy knows football. Your boy knows football. All right, so this is what happened. I picked SMU, that opening round of the playoffs, and we all had to pick an underdog, I think. And I picked SMU. I didn't really want to, but you know what? I was like, hey, it's Penn State. And not fully trusting James Franklin. But what I did say, and one day I'm going to rule the world with my ability to predict things. I said Notre Dame has the easiest path to the national championship. So to avoid a warm gin shot for losing out on the SMU, I decided to say that Notre Dame could beat Indiana because I don't think they're as good as they were. And they did. Mm-hmm. I thought they had a chance to beat Georgia because Georgia did not have a starting quarterback play. Carson Beck was out and was not a huge fan of Trevor Etienne. Was it Travis? It's the younger of the Etiennes that plays for Georgia.
The one that didn't play for Clemson, yeah.
Exactly. And I was right. They beat Georgia. And then on to Penn State. And I said Penn State does not have a winning record against top-ranked teams. And what happens? Notre Dame beats Penn State. And where's Notre Dame right now? Oh, they're in the national championship. So in light of a warm gin shot for my loss with SMU, I'm going to pull out something better and cheers myself for being smart by having a little Glenlivet 14, very fine scotch. So, boys, cheers to me.
Oh, I'll cheers with you, buddy.
Well done.
Buster Damas over here.
Yeah,
predictions.
And
Yeah.
we saw we actually broke down your prediction right at the pre-show, the little pre-show clip. So
Yeah.
our viewers are able to see that very first thing we see
All right,
before the
good,
show
good.
starts.
Working on a highlight reel there,
We
Buster.
got
Listen,
the Buster
I
highlight
need them to.
reel.
They
Well-
need to have the inside track to my knowledge and expertise. Unbiased, always fair, and always right.
In
Sometimes.
2025.
Always.
I think just to throw a button on that, we were talking about how proud we were in that Notre Dame game to see Mitch Jeter out there kicking. He transferred the year before. Sam brought that to my attention that it was his post-grad year, so he did graduate South Carolina.
He's always going to be a Gamecock brother.
And be on the show.
Happy for Mitch.
Happy for Mitch. And did his work there for the Irish there, which was pretty cool. But now that Buster's flowers are done here, and we got Notre Dame in the championship game, he's riding high for at least until that game kicks off. There is another team in this final. They have been there before. The mighty Buckeyes of Ohio State. They do have a lot of experience here, and we've been talking about them a lot this year. We, as South Carolina fans, have seen them quite a bit in the past and seen what they can do in the postseason. But Sam, you have a sort of alternate thing here with what you said and thought about Ryan Day and Ohio State, and I think you want to kind of fix that glitch too, huh?
Why are you guys breaking my balls? Buster's the expert. I'm just the comedy and the good-looking guy. That's all I'm supposed to do.
So, good luck. So, well, someone's got to be right, someone's got to be wrong, and there's three of us on this show. So,
I'm not going to root for Ohio State because I lived in Hilton Head, and everybody knows that if you are part of the South Carolina coast, you are born and bred to hate Ohio State. So, obviously, you are going to be the professional Ohio State fan.
Yeah, I gotta eat some crow on this one too. And in fact, I'm gonna have to hit that second warm gin shot here. So, Ryan Day. Outside. For our usual listeners, you probably know that I talk a lot of smack about Ryan Day, and also all of my friends too, right? I always talk about Ryan Day, especially after that loss to Michigan. Heck, I picked Tennessee to go in there and beat that Ohio State ass, and it was, boy, was that ugly for the reversal way. Ryan Day seems to be kind of doing a little bit of, maybe he was in his own. He needs to take a page out of Bret Bielema's book and just live in his own fears. Right now, Michigan has his number, but when he's not thinking about how much he's scared of the boosters if he doesn't beat Michigan, he just flat out dominates. He's got teams rolling. I mean, they are just like this. This offense is incredible. The defense is physical. I got to hand it to Ryan Day, man. You have shut up the haters. You are on your way to a national championship. You're in the game already. I haven't heard a lot of noise on social media and specifically X and Twitter about people hating on Ryan Day. So this warm gin shot's for you, Ryan. Well done coaching your boys up to the national championship game.
That's very well said.
Yes.
Your fears.
Let it burn. Let it burn.
It burns all right. I don't know what hurt worse, the gym shot or saying that about Ryan Day. I think they both hurt.
I said a lot of things going into the playoff that I thought Penn State was looking this and that, and I had seen them play this and that. And look, I couldn't have been more wrong there too. That guy is not going to beat ranked teams. This is just not happening. And with the way that I especially didn't like the way that press conference went. Between
neither did Marcus Freeman.
I just don't understand why that felt a little bit like Bielema and the way that swagger coming in, but to do that with the media and sort of like just kind of toss that at someone and try to think you're lobbing softballs and really just be talking down to someone as you're, and then it felt to me like for Notre Dame, here's more ammo to just go out and beat ass, and like you said, Sam, Ohio State too. That team had heard a lot of talk about their coach, and they're the ones playing on the field. Maybe as an Ohio State Buckeye, I go out there and I'm like, I'm doing, the win one for the Gipper and all that, because sometimes that motivation is real and can be used. And if that's what Ryan Day did, more power to him. But definitely that talk has silenced about Ryan Day. I mean, there was some talk going in before that game that even if he could beat win that game and get to the national championship, that even after winning a national championship, that the Ohio State boosters might still think about doing something. I mean, you wouldn't. Guy can't win a national championship and then
what did
happen, right?
What did Kirk Herbstreit call them? The fringe lunatics of the Ohio State fans. That's exactly. I mean, he nailed it. He called them the fringe lunatic vocal.
And it's funny you say that because isn't his kid going to play somewhere else, like not at Ohio State? I always thought
I think his kid's playing at Clemson or something.
Yeah. Well, but I do kind of feel I get why Herbstreit wouldn't do that, right? Like, why ask your kid to go play there and fall into a legacy that is yours, where he could go somewhere and do something new. I don't know that that's going to happen at Clemson. I mean, Clemson has won national championships too, so it's not like you're sort of blazing new ground. Like, say, Penn State might have if they got there, or some of these other lower seeds. If SMU does win that game and gets on a run, oh my God, that's the only thing we're talking about, right? Or if Tennessee does take out Ohio State, they all of a sudden become the favorite. I mean, I do kind of want to point to Buster made a point earlier, and I don't want to lose this because there has been a lot of talk about the SEC and what has happened in this playoff with the SEC, but Georgia losing Carson Beck and this other quarterback or whatever, that was a lot of talk before. That was real. And and Georgia kind of walked themselves out of this, right, with that. It's no one's fault. Injuries happen. But Georgia is full strength and has some of those players they didn't have, and that might be a different game.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I'm willing to give that to them. I don't love Georgia in that way, but I'm willing to give it.
My biggest question, and like I had posed this to a couple of friends, obviously hindsight's 2020. Before the playoffs started, I thought Oregon was going to be the strongest team. I like the talent. I like Dylan Gabriel.
Fastest team.
It's one of those things. But hindsight's 2020. Do you guys, Sam and Mikey, do you guys think that the two teams in the national championship, Notre Dame and Ohio State, are the best two teams in the country? So taking rankings out of it, taking in what the rankings were going into the playoffs, how they 1 through 12 or their seeds, do you think that if we were to take this matchup and put it into like the BCS computers or something like this, would this be the number one team playing the number two team? Do you think these two teams are the best two teams for the national championship?
I think you said a lot of things after you asked the question. Just to answer the question, I'm going to tick yes. Like, I'm going to fill in the yes box because both of these teams passed the eye test. Both of these teams have been winning big games all year. And Notre Dame battles this independent thing, and they're like, we're independent, we're always staying independent, yet they're still here. Ohio State wins quite a bit, still loses to Michigan, finds a way to get back. It reminds me of some other SEC teams we've seen. When I saw Florida lose that game and Tim Tebow make that speech and then make good on his speech, I don't even care the name or that he was a winner. You call your shot and you execute that shot and you do what you said you were going to do, that gets respect in my book, I love that a team, because when Ohio State Michigan plays it, the record, when we say the record doesn't matter, there's all these cliches, but it's true. It doesn't matter. When we play Clemson, it doesn't matter what the records are. It doesn't matter what the numbers are. We hate them. We want to beat them more than anyone for no other reason than they're right over there. And both of our squads were created hating each other. If there are fans of this show who are not necessarily Gamecock fans, what you need to know is that our university was shut down so Clemson could fire up. And the head of the state did that at that time. That chapped our ass so bad. That put so much moxie and hair on our ass or whatever else you want to say, and that's never going to go away, and that's from the start. And those are the only years that our university was not functioning was because Clemson came on. We were never going to hate anybody more than that. We were never going to want to play anybody, and that's why we keep them in our schedule. To anyone who wants to know, like, we didn't need to, but we said the NCAA, whatever you want to do with our schedule, we don't care. You don't want us to play Florida or Georgia or whatever you want to do. We're playing Clemson. We're always playing Clemson until the world ends,
That is why they put that flag up. This flag right here, that's why he flies the flag in the background. But
am I from South Carolina? No, but do I want to learn and do I want to know and do I hold that every day? Yeah, I do, because art of war is a real thing, and you don't let that go. We could beat Clemson every single year, and I'm still going to want to play them, and I'm still going to want to win that game. And they had it for a while, and they beat the tar out of us, and they won some national championships. We got to get there, and it ain't even until then, and even then it ain't even, because we got to steal the recruits from them. We got to take as much as we can, and that's what Ohio State does with Michigan every year since they've played. And these are some of the things, some of the reasons why we even came up with this show was because the realignments and the NIL and the new conferences, things are different, but there are core tenets that we hold, and that's one of them, at least for me.
Notre Dame and Ohio State are unequivocally the two best teams. Notre Dame's got the physicality. Right. They got a badass coach who I love, and I don't know what James Franklin was calling by calling out his experience and age. I mean, Marcus Freeman looks like he could strap up right then and there. He looks like he could still play linebacker right now.
He looks.
I'm going to be honest. I have several lady friends that do not know anything about his coaching ability, but they do know he is a very good-looking coach, and I agree.
I mean, on the other side, Brian Day isn't the worst-looking guy either.
Same thing with the Carolina Panthers head coach Danny Cazella. The ladies love him as well. But so you got Notre Dame. They're in my opinion the most physical team in college football. They can really shut down anyone. They can take anyone out of their game. They might not light up the scoreboard, but they will certainly punch you in the mouth. And I think they like doing that. And it pains me to say it because I'm not a Notre Dame fan, and I really don't like the fact that they're not in a conference, but they look like the most physical team in the entire nation. As far as Ohio State, from week one, they've been top 1, top 2 ranked by the, I keep saying experts, but there's a reason why. They have incredible firepower. And then as we've seen in the playoffs, that they can play physical too. I think Notre Dame's a bit more physical, but Ohio State's got a lot more firepower, and they can put up points in a hurry. The field's going to be littered, both offensively for Ohio State and defensively for Notre Dame, littered with first-round talent. It's going to be a fun game to watch.
Yeah. Cool. So with that said, I think we should definitely do some predictions on this game, and I'll start with this. So I'm pulling for Notre Dame. I was a big Rudy fan growing up, obviously, a big Lou Holtz fan growing up. So Notre Dame. I'm not Catholic, but I always had a soft spot for the Catholics. I rooted for them when it was Catholics versus convicts back in the day. So I'm going with Notre Dame, but it's that has an effect. But I think I'm going for Notre Dame more so. I like Riley Leonard as a quarterback, but Marcus Freeman, we're going to harp on him. But Brian Kelly left Notre Dame because he said he wanted to go win national championships at LSU, and he was going to do it for his family as he tried to speak with a Southern drawl and completely failed. I think Brian Kelly left a great job that was filled by a great coach now in Marcus Freeman. Like when you listen to him talk, whether it's like at halftime or post game when he's with the reporters or in his press conferences or even when he's talking to his team, there is something about him that exudes a quiet confidence to where that if you were a football player, you are not only in good hands with a coach that's going to take care of you, but you're in good hands with a coach that knows how to dial up a play, knows how to get 180% out of you, and is going to take you to the next level. That's what I see in Marcus Freeman, and that's why I'm going with Notre Dame. They're a 8-point underdog. I'm picking them to cover, and I'm picking them straight up to win. And I think what was the over-under was
45 and a half.
45
and a half.
8 is the difference, right, for Ohio State, and then the over/under 45 and a half. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not going to pick Notre Dame to cover. I'm going to pick them to straight up win this game, and then I would honestly, who knows what the defense is. I think Notre Dame has an elite defense. I think Ohio State has a good defense, but I do like Jeremiah Smith, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. I think he's going to put up some big numbers. I'm going to go with the under. Normally, I thought 2025 was going to be the year of the overs for me, but I'm going to go with the under, and I'm going to take Notre Dame straight up.
It's still 2024 season, so hey, maybe
it's 2025.
Some gambling trends here, what the public thinks and what everyone thinks. So with Ohio State open as a 9.5-point favorite, That has since gone down to 8. So obviously the public likes Notre Dame. 45.5, it stayed consistent. So everyone thinks it's going to be I would say it's probably about a medium scoring game. I don't think that's
Yeah,
terribly
that's a
high.
medium. Yeah.
I don't think it's
yeah.
terribly low. I don't think it's
I
terribly
wouldn't
high.
say
think it's
low. Yeah.
right in
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Couple trends. So this is the second highest, second largest spread of a national championship game in about 20 years. Highest spread was Georgia TCU. You guys remember that? You guys remember the final of that
Totally
game?
different.
It was like
scenario.
65-6 or something like
Completely
that.
different scenario. I mean,
that-
look.
They open as 14-point favorites.
If the goal,
Interestingly, one more thing too.
Yeah,
One more thing too,
yeah,
Mike,
bring
real
it.
quick. One more. Interestingly enough, Ohio State was an 8.5 point underdog, or excuse me, 9.5 point underdog against Miami in 2002.
wow, that was
I
incredible.
did not.
year.
Yeah, I
remember
knew that
game.
like Miami was going to be the better team, and then the injury happened.
I
so-
remember everything about that game. There was a massive snowstorm in the Northeast. I got snowed in with my buddies, my one buddy from Miami. I remember Willis McGahee's injury, one of the worst injuries I've ever seen.
All right, so
Ken
I'm Notre
Dorsey's
Dame.
injury. Shout out Ken Dorsey, got fired a few weeks ago by the Browns.
Oh yeah.
But
All right, so wait, I'm Notre Dame. Sam, you're Ohio State, correct?
I'm gonna drink that Ryan Day Kool-Aid, brother. I think Ohio State's gonna win this game 27-20.
All right, Mike, I would say if you want to pick a team, that's fine. If you want to remain unbiased and fair and balanced, you can just
I
go.
don't give a shit
I don't
about
know.
being unbiased
But I would
and
say
fair.
this.
Look at this flag. Does it look like I'm unbiased?
Well, so that brings me to this point. Loser has to wear orange on the next podcast.
Oh God. Do I even own anything
I really
orange?
don't want to do that.
I have-
But if
I
I
have one-
am gonna do that, you just flipped me. You just flipped me because if I am gonna do that, I'm gonna do that with Buster, not with Sam. Because
right,
he's
so
wearing
here's
green
the-
right now. And if he's wrong, he's gonna have to put orange over that green.
All
And
right,
that's the
so-
only way I'm gonna do it if it's with Buster. So hold
Here's
on.
the
Buster.
deal.
Hold on. All
right,
okay,
go.
give me the deal.
All right, so the deal is I actually don't own anything orange. I've refused to have it in my house. However, I have a hunting cap that you're required to wear orange when you're hunting. So I have a hunting cap that I will wear backwards so you can see the orange part and not necessarily the camouflage part. So I will wear that, and then I think my wife may have something orange because she doesn't care the way that I do.
Yeah,
So
she wears.
even though I don't own anything purposely that is orange, I will find a way to put some level of orange on my body if Notre Dame loses.
Look, I'll find something, whether it's a traffic cone or an orange vest or something. I'll find something. Don't worry about that. But
plenty
part
of traffic
of it
goes
too
on the
is
street,
that
man. For you, Mike, there's plenty out there.
I really am very split here, and we're having fun, obviously. But Sam, I was very close to 27-20 Ohio State as well.
Ooh.
But it also occurs to me that the last time Notre Dame was here, we talked about one time when Ohio State was here in that Miami game. Last time Notre Dame was knocking on this door, they got laughed out of there.
Yes,
I
they
remember
did.
watching Bama beat the tar out of them. I forget where I was going, but I was on a flight. And I couldn't believe it was the only thing I had to watch. I even thought about turning it off, but I'm on a flight.
That was when I think their quarterback was the kid from Myrtle Beach, if I'm not mistaken. I do remember that game, and I remember talking about they had a star player that was from Myrtle Beach that committed to Notre Dame. I'll look up his name, and I'll probably send out a short.
I mean,
I remember that game because Manti Te'o's girlfriend was there watching the stands.
Nice.
Very good one. Look, I mean, usually you're going to go with experience, right? Ohio State's got experience here, right? Ryan Day's been staring down the barrel of a championship, a lot. Notre Dame is not, and that experience is not there. But I think that the history of Notre Dame, knowing that they do not get here very often, it's been a while, knowing that this scenario does not come up that much, where you potentially are matched up with the other best team in the country. And I do think this is one where the team that wins this game, all of us and the country is going to look at them as a consensus national champion. That does not happen all the time. You might be the champion. Correct. But does everyone say that you're the champion? I know. Remember, it used to be you could get like a piece of it, or like whether you had a piece of it or not.
Pre-BCS, you had Michigan and Tennessee. They split championships.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID, pre-BCS.
Was it 90?
I think Auburn split a championship one year with.
The split championship thing was always weird to me. But yes, I'm gonna.
When they beat Oregon,
I'm gonna bite on that.
Maybe.
I'm gonna go with Rudy. I'm gonna go.
There you go. There you go.
I'm going to go a little less because I'm going to say for them to win, it is going to have to be defensive, and it's going to have to be a little less than a medium scoring game because if it gets to medium and Ohio State turns up that heat a little, well, now we're into a full-blown shootout, and I don't know that Notre Dame can do it. Like Sam said,
you make good points, Mike.
Firepower, right?
You make good points there.
So I'm going to go a little less, and I'm going to say something like I'm going to say something like 24-17. You know, a touchdown is the difference. I think it's pretty straight up. I don't think there's a lot of tomfoolery in this game. I don't think there's 2-point conversions. I don't think there's missed kicks. I think I think our boy Jeter here is going to make kicks and keep the score a regular football score. But I'm also going to say that it's the under. That Notre Dame needs the under. Remember when we talked a few weeks ago about Clemson, and if we kept him if we got him over 40 passes.
30,
that he would start making mistakes, and that's when he makes mistakes.
Yeah. That's my favorite stat I've ever used in my life.
So that puts the two of us on the Irish side, and then Sam on the Buckeye side, which I did not see coming.
Sam, did you have a score prediction?
27-20.
Yeah,
27-20. All right.
Ohio State.
All right. So, by the way, it was Everett Golson that played for Notre Dame. It was from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I like your 27-20. Actually, God dang, you guys are good. Because Mikey, I love your 24-17. I love where we are in that range. Just knowing what the defenses can do, knowing how the offenses operate. If I'm picking the under, that means that the defense is going to win the day for both teams.
Which could mean a pick six too, if you want to go that way. None of us really said that. But
yeah, I know. I'm going to go.
And if it's a pick six to end the game, you aren't always going to do the extra point, right? So that could affect the score.
You know what? I'm going to go 2017. I'm going to keep it low.
Real low, yeah.
17, yeah.
Mitch Jeter, the former Gamecock, with a walk-off field goal.
That's
the thing. What if it was 17-17 tied, going fourth quarter, 3 seconds left. Notre Dame drives down. They're at the freaking 35-yard line. Mitch Jeets has a 51-yard field goal from the 35.
I'll throw out one other nugget that goes with Jeter and everything that we said. They said something like Notre Dame has had a 1-year portal transfer a kicker like 4 years in a row now. It's like what they do, you know. Man. So this kid, they go after these kickers. This is what they do. They don't bring them up. Every year they get one through the portal, and I think it pays dividends. Yeah, right, I don't know that he's going to win the game, but if Ohio State misses a kick, then all of a sudden it does look like because he's so reliable. Hopefully we're not jinxing him. Hopefully it doesn't go the other way.
Here's the deal. If I lose, I'm going to send you guys a clip, and we can post this. I'll go shopping for something orange. How's that? God.
All right, enough of that.
I like that. So
that's gonna wrap up our predictions for the college football playoff championship. I think we even started scratching it that. However you want to measure success, we'll see, and we'll talk about that in the next episode in terms of the college football playoff as a whole and how it went down, and we'll talk a little bit more about that to once we have all of the data. But I think we are sort of hinting at if the goal is to have the two best teams and a consensus national champion, then this might end up being that goal.
I think so. I think these are the two best.
But on the other end, I think a lot of people, we mentioned that TCU championship. That was pretty cool that TCU was able to get up in there and win those games. Yeah. There is a contingent of college football and a piece of me that always wants to go with the underdog. So I do want to see teams be able to have a chance to get up in there. I mean, we're talking about like literally hundreds of teams. And sometimes it can be like, how can you even think about getting up there?
No, this
Indiana's, the SMUs, I think those keep us in it for the season.
Those are okay. It's just a lot of times, especially in college, you can definitely tell when a team can be underqualified or, they've done enough
out of their depth.
They've done enough to get to the national championship and props to that. But there are times when you look at like that TCU and Notre Dame from 10 years ago or 12 years ago or whatever it was, you feel like that they do not have the horses to run that race. And I think this is one of the first years where I'm excited about a national championship, not because the SEC team is in there to show our dominance, not the fact that South Carolina was knocking on the door this year at one point. I just like the fact that these are two teams that have a storied history and lots been talked about. I like the fact that these two coaches are a storyline in itself. Again, you can come up outside of the football game. You can dedicate a broadcast literally just on the story of the coaches and who they are, what they came from. And so to me, that's what makes it exciting is that not only are you going to have a great football game, potentially a great football game, but you're going to have such great stories that come out of it and lots to talk about and things that when we go to the bars and hang out with our friends and eat chicken wings and get drunk off of Diet Millers, we're going to be able to talk about this game for the next couple of weeks because there's so much involved in it. And that to me is what makes this game special.
No, that's great. That's good stuff.
I mean,
you're totally right.
We mentioned TCU a few times, Mike. I know you brought it up. Like, are these the actual two best teams? And I think it's a fair point. I never, for once, ever had that feeling like this is the strongest I've felt about the national championship game being the two best. Right? Even Alabama, Georgia, when they, you kind of was like, all right, well, it's two SEC teams, blah blah blah. But I remember when TCU beat Michigan in the semifinal, and they kind of, I felt like they robbed us of a good championship game of like Georgia and Michigan that one year, if I remember correctly. So it's going to be a great cap off to a wonderful season.
No, there's so many good storylines. Like Buster said, you could do a whole thing on the coaches. You could do a whole thing on the independent versus the conference, right? Because Ohio State has that conference. You could do it on the culture difference between the two, right? Ohio State is a state university. Notre Dame is a private Catholic university. You could do it on the season. I'm very big on that, that teams need to lose now and then to find ways to win. And something about that loss to Michigan just lit a friggin' fire under that Buckeye. And I feel like without losing to Michigan, they're not here, So I'm with you guys. I think it's I'm not going to say that it's a full-blown success for the college football playoff, but I'm going to say it at least got us to where we wanted to be. We'll talk more about that next week when we unpack the playoff as a whole and the first round buys and what we think about the setup. But I think that's, with the picks in, with the deals done, that's gonna wrap up our thoughts going into the college football playoff, and we'll all be watching. Obviously, we'll probably get some more videos up there. Pregame, halftime. Let us know what you guys think about the national championship. Do you think that it's one of the better matchups we've seen, a consensus national championship coming? What are the arguments against that? Tell us. We'll pick it apart a little more next week if we have to. But that's going to wrap that up for us, and that's going to take us over to a quick recap of the NFL Wildcard weekend.
Mike, why you got a dog, man? Why you got to dog me on that with the Wildcard weekend? I thought we were going to go the entire show without having to talk about my losing Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, it was it's getting kind of normal, right? We win 10 games, we win 9 games, and we're one and done in the playoffs. And I realize that I sound like a very typical and spoiled Steelers fan, but it is getting a little frustrating. I have to be honest. I was very excited this season. I thought there was a lot of growth, specifically offensively. I did like Russell Wilson. I think there was some issues at the end of the year that I don't think were necessarily his fault. A lot of guys were resting, but they just kind of limped out of the season, and that was it. I don't want to take anything away from the Ravens. They are really freaking good.
That rivalry too, Sam. It's going to go one way or the other, but that rivalry is great.
The Ravens are really, really good. Offensively, defensively, they figured it out. I think that they have some special potential there.
They did it without Zay Flowers too.
Yeah. Overall, it was. But they got Derrick Henry, right? Like Derrick Henry.
No, I know, but I saw Rashad Bateman doing stuff I never add him to my fantasy team because he has not lived up to anything. He wasn't quite a number one in that game, but he was good.
Yeah. Listen, Lamar's a stud. He's a Mr. Jackson, as he's called. He's a Super Bowl, or excuse me, he's an MVP. Derrick Henry's an absolute beast, and he only gets better as the season goes on. For the Steelers, it's two things, right? I don't necessarily think the defense is an issue. I think what the issue is offensively really need a QB. I mean, you see all these teams that are doing so well over the last 20 years that have won the Super Bowl, 25 years, whatever it is with a franchise quarterback. And we just haven't had that since Roethlisberger.
Right.
So I like Russell Wilson, but he's not big enough, right? I'm just gonna say it. He's 6 foot. Really need a guy that's kind of big for that type of offense. You need like a physical guy, maybe someone that can extend plays. And George Pickens just seems to be like he's kind of out of control. They gotta figure out his head, man. They got to figure out his head. But I still have faith that Tomlin has a locker room. But these 10-win seasons and one and done are getting really annoying. So
I mean, hey,
I'm still a fan, but it's getting hard.
When I mean, look, we obviously know what the NFC North is, and Buster will get to his Packers in a second, but still, Sam, you're in one of the toughest divisions. I mean, the Bengals coming on so fast. All the Bengals really have to do is start better at the beginning of any season, and they're right there. But you guys did a lot with what you had this year. I mean, even running 2 quarterbacks is very rare in the NFL. And when I went to see Fields come in, that was pretty cool to see what they were doing there.
I do like Fields. I hope that they can kind of keep him and he can kind of grow a little bit more and develop. So hopefully that's our franchise guy. But he's no Jordan Love, Buster. That's for sure.
The Packers.
He's trying to put some moxie in you, put some hair on you.
The Packers? You told get this out of here. The Packers.
Not happy.
All right, so here's the deal. I was happy we made the playoffs. I kind of figured we would. Did I think we were going to be a wild card, like the 3rd best team in the NFC North with the record we had? I mean, shout out to the Lions, shout out to the Vikings, but we got to the playoffs, and we have been to the playoffs every single year with Matt LaFleur as our coach. I really like him. I'm a fan of Jordan Love. But that's where I don't want to say that's where the fandom ends. It's definitely not, because I'm, Lambeau, Vince Lombardi, like it's the Packers. What I think is the problem is it's maybe 3 things. The first thing is quality depth on the back end. When Jair Alexander goes on, he's obviously our best DB.
Yeah.
Who do we have after that? Like Eric Stokes has played very well. The guy out of Georgia. I've seen good plays out of Carrington Valentine and a couple of other guys. Keyshawn Nixon, former Gamecock. Shout out to Keyshawn. Nice. Except for that fumble on the opening kickoff. Good Lord, buddy. Keep the ball in your hands.
Yeah, special teams. We talked a lot about special teams.
Jeff Halfley, I like him as a D coordinator, but I think we need a little bit more depth on the back end on defense. I like our linebackers. Edgerrin Cooper is going to be a stud. We got to hold on to him. Rashawn Gary is still a pass rushing machine. Kingsley Agnabare, former Gamecock as well. I'm liking what he's doing. The front two on the defensive line, they look good too. I think just depth on the defense. And then the biggest issue is wide receiver.
Yes.
We need an elite wide receiver. Christian Watson was supposed to be that thing. Now, granted, I know he tore his ACL and he was out. Sorry for that. But I do not see what you get out of other championship teams. Like if you look at Detroit, like Amon St. Rock, he is an elite wide receiver.
Oh my God.
DK Metcalf, AJ Brown for the Eagles, elite wide receiver. If you are going to win a championship, if you have an elite wide receiver, the go-to guy for your quarterback, and a quarterback like Jordan Love that can be a franchise quarterback, that can surpass what Aaron Rodgers has done, then you need to have an elite wide receiver that is complements what a good running back is. Because Josh Jacobs, I was worried about Aaron Jones leaving after last year. I'm like, man, he played very well with us.
Don't worry.
But Josh Jacobs showed up and showed that
he's the most Packer on that team.
Exactly.
He work in the factory like now.
So I love Josh Jacobs. I love Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft is a Packer. He's the guy that he has the moxie of David Bakhtiari. He's the guy that will show up to a Milwaukee Bucks basketball game and take down a 32-ounce beer like it's no problem.
That guy goes out and tips cows and throws hay bales.
Exactly. We have the certain pieces. We need a couple more pieces. We need depth. And granted, also, there was a lot of injuries in that game. Romeo Dobbs went out and scary concussion issue. Shout out to him. Prayers up. But Jade Reed went out. Our Elton Jenkins, the right tackle, went out.
Yeah, a lot of injuries.
A lot of injuries.
What I would say, though, Buster, one thing that occurred to me, I was really focused on Jayden Reed for a lot of the year because I had him in fantasy and I was really watching what he was doing. And the more I watched the Packers, the more I would get frustrated. Any one week, the focus was Reed or the focus was Dobbs. And they were really forcing Christian Watson in as much as they possibly could. And for me, it was like, what about Tucker Kraft? What about throwing the ball to Josh Jacobs? There's a lot of other mouths here that are really pro players. If Christian Watson is not there and it's not healthy, because not his fault, but he just feels like a soft tissue nightmare. Like something's always happening with Watson. And I pretty much hear in any game with the Packers that he's in, he's out, you know?
Well, that's the thing is Christian Watson is not, I'm not asking for a Devontae Adams. I'm asking for a player that gives us the same level of consistency, explosive plays as a Devontae Adams did for us under Aaron Rodgers.
For me, that's Jayden Reed, though. For me, that's Jayden Reed is that explosive, but the coaches are not getting the ball.
No, Jayden Reed and Dontavian Wicks, they will flash in week 7 and 3 receptions for 120 yards.
Wicks is raw. I think Wicks is a little raw.
Wicks is raw, but they were vastly inconsistent. If you have an elite wide receiver that is consistent and reliable, it only elevates that wide receiver room. And I can see Reed, Wicks, and Dobbs elevate their game if you have a veteran, reliable leader at wide receiver. And then, I don't want to say that the offense needs to run through a tight end, but having Tucker Kraft, not necessarily as a safety valve, you still want him to give you explosive plays, but a good tight end room is one that you use to exploit a weakness, not necessarily your downfield threats. If Jordan Love is going
to get those extra blocks, right?
So the Packers, when they were most successful under Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre, is when their downfield threats were so explosive that it opened up everything else and allowed you to exploit other weaknesses. When Brett Favre had a Darnold driver, when Aaron Rodgers had a Devontae Adams, if Jordan Love gets that downfield vertical threat that can open everything up, that gives you a chance to exploit weaknesses with Jayden Reed and Dontavius Wicks and Tucker Kraft and Josh Jacobs. It opens up holes for him.
Again, being one of the youngest teams, I think a full offseason with that crew, everyone getting healthy, I do think people start to separate. I think, the way Reed is being used, especially near the end of the season, he had like 0 targets. And they were running him as a running back. I was like, guys, what are you doing here? You literally just put him in motion just to see if it's man or zone, and then you don't throw him the ball. I would like to see Reed be the focus from coaching to be the number 1, Dobbs to be the close number 2, Wicks to be the number 3, or some variation, or you bring in another wide receiver to push them in camp to get those roles established. Because you got your running back, and you got running backs after that.
Emmanuel Wilson is phenomenal.
But I think we know where we're at with the Packers. Just because you didn't say much about the other team, geez, that Eagles line. Oh my God, they're tallest, biggest, widest mofos I've ever seen. And look, Saquon is who he is, and 2,000 yards is incredible. But I'm starting to think almost anybody with 2 legs could run behind that line,
Oh, yeah.
And anybody could push for 5 yards with that line.
Watching that offensive line and the fact that, Sam, we talked about this. You win in the trenches. You look at the Eagles' defensive line, with Jordan Davis, that massive human being from Georgia. Oh. You look at the offensive line. Lane Johnson is one of the best tackles in the game. If not, he is the actual best tackle in the game.
And they lost Jason Kelsey, and they're still with it.
And they still that good.
Not his name, but his replacement's been doing very well too. All right, that's probably good on that. I mean, look, I think on top of that, though, guys, Sam, the Steelers losing to the Ravens. I mean, the Ravens look like they could win it all. That Ravens-Bills game is going to be really something. People are going to get hurt in that game, And then same thing with you, Buster. The Eagles sagged for a minute when Jaylen got hurt and AJ was asking for the ball, whatever. That was all the motivation they needed. Jalen's back in there. They're running their plays. Those 2 teams could meet in the Super Bowl in a couple of weeks. So do not disparage, my friends, because my team, I'll hit the other game first. Rams and Vikings. Good up on the Rams. They were who they were. They can run the ball really well too. Matty Stafford had a really big game. And, you know, I hate to say it, but the biggest individual loser for me is Sam Darnold. He plays a great year, career year, wins so many games in your division, Buster. Great division.
Yeah, against the Lions, against the freaking Packers.
Basically a playoff game in his last week against a team that already beat him, with the other best record on that side. That was an insane. The NFL could be so lucky to have that as the last game. Yeah. And then to have to go into a playoff game against the only other team that beat you, and an arm in Matty Stafford that has won a Super Bowl, and potentially some of the best, you know, one of the better wide receiver cores. I mean, it drops off a little after Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, but they got other guys, and I think Tyler Higbee's going to be back for the next one. I think he got out of there, and Robinson or one of the other tight ends filled in. But good on you guys for even having playoff teams, right? We've talked so much about the game.
Darnold lost like $50 million.
He did, and that sucks for him. But that's why you play the games. And the Rams had a great, you know, McVay has really bounced back from, you know, we got to the Super Bowl. He kind of had some years, and it was looking like, I don't know, and it feels like he's right back there, and with some of the same guys. I mean, he drafted Puka Nacua, you know, he wanted Kieran Williams. These are really great players, and the Rams feel like a very dangerous team with what they do. But we'll see how that plays out. We'll segue that on the end for next week for the divisional round, and then I'll just say again, both of you guys having your playoff teams. I know they didn't show quite the way last weekend, but Packers are young. Steelers have a lot of great players and one of the best coaches maybe that's ever done it. And that's saying a lot from a Patriots fan. And since I'm talking about coaches, and I can say one thing about my Patriots, and Sam will allow, we did hire a new coach. Vrabel seems to be a great fit for us. My only thing there is I need to see who our OC is for my Drake May, and then we'll go from there. And I'll let you guys weigh in if you disagree with anything I said.
No, my facial expression wasn't for you. It was for the Tomlin. I think there's enough. There's starting to be a lot of chatter about him. I don't know, man. It's
I don't look. Hey,
I still have the faith, but that was the facial expression I was giving.
You made a good point, though, Sam. I mean, the Cowboys did what they did, and I don't know what Jerry Jones is doing, but they need to win playoff games, and if you got to fire a guy because he can't win a playoff game, that would be a damn shame for someone like Mike Tomlin, who's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame. But it does happen eventually, and it happened with my team. We pushed out one of the other best coaches of all time because it looked like the game had passed him by. And look at him now; he's going to coach the Tar Heels. So that's
maybe.
Yeah,
still got that opt-out clause.
Yeah, it is football. That's gonna finish us up for this episode. Mostly gonna get to our closing remarks, which we are kind of redubbing 3 Down Territory, just to keep it quick. This little segment where we can shout out the good and kind of holler out the bad. And I'll let you take it, Coach Buster.
All right, first down. This is the Joe Montana QB of the Week award. This goes to Jayden Daniels, the rookie QB with the Washington Commanders. Shout out to Jayden Daniels to win a road playoff game.
Only one to do it. Second down, I'm up, huh? So I'm going to go with the Water Boys' very own Coach Klein, Coach of the Week award, Marcus Freeman. You know what? I also could give this to James Franklin for being such a clown and trying to call him out in that press conference, but I'm going to give it to Marcus Freeman. Dude looks like he could suit up right now. Hey, Ryan Day, don't say anything to piss him off in that press conference, man. Let him be. Leave him alone.
Dude, I'm starting to think his middle name is Morgan, Marcus Morgan Freeman, and he, you know, a couple of years we're going to want him for president. You know.
Oh yeah.
So that brings me up on, I think, like third and a yard or so. And I'm going to throw it back to the Gamecocks and the Lady Gamecocks. We're on a tear lately.
Right, they are.
Just beat the Longhorns, number 5. Big win, probably the highest ranked team they'll play for a little while. SEC team, obviously now. And they're doing all that even without Ashley Watkins, who very unfortunately is done for the year and is a big loss. But other ladies are stepping up, and they look to be right where they want to be for now, beating very highly ranked SEC teams. That I think is going to get us a first down. Did I get that yard there, Coach?
All right, so I think
get better,
based on the
get
replay,
better.
Yes, the replay officials they took a look at this on your 3rd and 1, and they see the positivity that the Gamecocks they're going to have in 2025. So not only did you get the first down, but you managed to break a couple of tackles, and with 2 seconds left on the clock, touchdown, baby. Touchdown.
Touchdown.
I'm glad we got you reviewing that first down and not the 2012 Outback Bowl referee there that's measuring that first down. I appreciate that.
Exactly.
All right, guys. Well, that's our little fun little segment at the end. We'll probably be doing that every other week. That was actually a lot of fun. But just to get here serious for a quick second, we were talking about the Rams earlier. What a great win that was. We want to take a solemn moment here for everyone in LA who is suffering with the Palisade fires, the Eaton fire, all the fires out there. Really a terrible situation for everyone, and just want to let everyone know, like, we're thinking about you. We're donating. It's at the forefront of everyone's minds. It's really a terrible situation, and our prayers are with everyone involved, residents, firefighters, everyone in LA and the area. And I'll let you guys jump in on that if there's anything else that you want to say there. But I hate to make it so serious, but it's a very serious situation.
One good area to donate, the Los Angeles Regional Food Bank Disaster Relief Fund, guys. Go to the website there. Give it. A lot of people need food. A lot of people out of houses. It's a great place to donate right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that. I've been reading the stories. A lot of the firefighters out there, they're heroes. They are working. They're risking their lives. And we're seeing stories where they are rescuing beloved pets of the citizens of LA County.
They're breaking tackles. Yeah.
Even there's the story where they knew they couldn't save the house. So what they do, they go inside and save the photo albums and all the important things for that family. That's what a real hero does. And it's not just regular firefighters. There are incarcerated firefighters that are working this fire as well. And selfless acts. So big shout out to those guys. You guys are in my heart. So I'm going to keep you in my prayers, and let's come together as a country and work together and get these guys the help they need.
Very well said, Buster. So, that's going to wrap us up for the week. Had a lot of fun with this one, guys. First one of 2025. Everybody out there, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe. Tell us what you want to hear more about. Disagree with us. Let us know where we got something wrong, like those PTI guys do. Next week, we will definitely recap this national championship. Who knows? That might dominate the whole episode. But we will try and touch on the NFL divisional round, some big games there, and working towards the Super Bowl, and getting into winter workouts for Carolina.
One last thing, guys.
In the spring game. Yeah, go ahead, Buster.
I'm thinking if any of our listeners want to leave a comment on any upcoming events that they want us, when we do these little bets between each of us. So if you got any ideas of, beyond wearing orange, obviously nothing too X-rated and too ridiculous, but if you got some ideas, put them in the comments. Let us know. Maybe the next time Sam and I go head to head on something, we'll take your recommendation and put it to the test.
And that's when we would shout out to them.
OnlyFans, baby. OnlyFans.
Alumni
Game.
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 Game.